Hello, all. Well, as promised, there was no time for a Friday lunchtime live stream this week, so I am here with a pre record, and I am going to take a break from the climate crisis and artificial intelligence and chat GPT and machine learning and 5G and 2G and everything, and we're going to go back into my realm of expertise personally, and that is pharmacology and toxicology. It turns out that science is all around us. It impacts our lives on every level, and it is there. There is a science story everywhere, whether you are looking for a science story or not. And it just so happens that in a book I was recently reading, there was a science story buried within it. I've been reading The Richer Sex by Liza Mundy. Just briefly, it's a book about altered gender roles and how they got altered and how society is coping with them. But there was and you can read that book yourself if you want to. It says some very interesting things depending upon your perspective and your station in life. But there is a drug story buried within the book. It's in chapter 6 on page 111. Chapter 6 is entitled Let Go and Lexapro. When I started this chapter, I thought Lexapro might have been something technological, like an app or a device, but it turns out Lexapro is a drug. And just for context, I'll just say that it's a drug for anxiety and depression. I won't go into why the drug was highlighted in this book and in this chapter. You can go read the book for yourself. And I think it might be discussed in content over on my original channel. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about the drug because I think it's worth visiting. I think I had heard of this drug before, but I had never really paid it much attention until reading uh, this particular chapter and passage from the book. So, what is Lexapro? Well, first, all drugs have two names. There is a an industry name. I think that's the right term for it. It's been years since I've had my pharmacology training, but there's a an industry name and then there's a generic name. So uh, this drug is known as Lexapro, and then its alternate name is acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. Uh, Lexapro is an SSRI, so it is a serotonin. It is a specific serotonin reuptake inhibitor. That means in the central nervous system, it blocks the reuptake of serotonin. And at this point, when you're talking about a drug, it's important to know the drug's pharmacodynamics. In other words, how it works. So I'm gonna branch off for a moment and I'm going to talk about serotonin, what it is, and how it works. So let's talk about that. Okay, so I am going to correct myself. SSRI does not stand for specific serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So, serotonin, much like the catecholamines, epinephrine, and phenylephrine, serotonin is an amino acid derivative. So its starting product or its starting form is an amino acid, specifically the amino acid tryptophan. And then it goes through a metabolic process and it gets converted to serotonin. So, what does serotonin do? Well, if you think about the brain is comprised of multiple regions, and for the sake of this video, there is typically a presynaptic neuron and a postsynaptic neuron. And the presynaptic neuron has an ending terminal, and the postsynaptic neuron has a beginning terminal. Those might not be the right words for it, but the presynaptic neuron, basically what it does when it's excited, the vesicles secrete a given neurotransmitter. In this case, it's serotonin. That serotonin diffuses down to the postsynaptic neuron where there are receptors. So the presynaptic neuron releases serotonin, and then there are serotonin receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. And once those receptors are bound, that postsynaptic neuron gets excited and continues a cascade of events which lead to the biological function. In the central nervous system, serotonin is almost exclusively produced in neurons originating in the raphe nuclei located in the midline brainstem. These serotonin producing neurons form the largest and most complex efferent system in the human brain. So pretty much all of the synapses in the brain, on the terminals that secrete the neurotransmitters, there are channels that reuptake the neurotransmitters for later use. And so that is a part of how the transmission gets turned off. The hormone, the neurotransmitter gets secreted, it binds the receptor, it comes off, it gets taken back up by the presynaptic terminal. So if you block those channels that reuptake the neurotransmitters, you can prolong the activity of the neurotransmitters. And that's what a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor does. It blocks the receptor that reuptakes the neurotransmitter, and so the neurotransmitter hangs out there in the synapse much longer, and it binds the receptors much longer. So why is that important? Well, serotonin, in terms of its function and in terms of its effect, it deals with mood and it deals with feeling, and it deals with good moods and good feelings. So if you prolong the amount of time that serotonin is hanging out there in the synapse, you can pharmacologically impact a patient's mood and how they feel, and you can treat them for depression. And that's how a drug like Lexapro works. You're blocking the reuptake of serotonin. You're prolonging its time in the synapse and on those receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. And in doing so, you are causing the patient to feel better, and you are easing their mood, and you are treating their depression. Lexapro is an oral therapeutic. Serotonin is also active on the gastrointestinal tract, so it has functions outside of the brain. As we know, our nervous system, you have your central nervous system. Well, we have our central nervous system, and you have our peripheral nervous system, and those they can operate under similar mechanisms. Most drugs are not specific for a particular tissue or organ system. They may be designed and they may show the most efficacy at that particular site, but they can cause side effects in other parts of the body. So in the case of Lexapro, side effects include nausea, dry mouth, trouble sleeping, constipation, tiredness, dizziness, and increased sweating. In terms of drug interactions, I wrote down, and you can look all this up online yourself. I just quickly scribbled down aspirin and monoamine oxidase inhibitors. That's another class of drugs. And that's another discussion all in itself. There are so many other places I can take this discussion in. I'm not going to get into the absorption, distribution, and metabolism and excretion of Lexapro. That would take a while to walk through here in this format. So I'm just going to wrap up here. I just wanted to give a quick discussion on the pharmacodynamics of Lexapro. What I just described regarding the ADME of Lexapro, that would be the pharmacokinetics. This was the pharmacodynamics. This was the mechanism. It is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, and it is most active in this particular instance in the RAFI nuclei located in the midline of the brain stem. Creating a drug is no minor undertaking. It takes years and years of research, and it takes lots of dollars. So a lot of work went into this drug, and anytime you use a drug of any kind, just know that a lot of work went into creating that molecule and that pharmaceutical. So I just wanted to create this short discussion on Lexapro. Again, science stories are everywhere, and there was a science story buried here in the richer sex. And I'm going to wrap this up. So let me know if you have any questions or comments in the description box below. We covered a lot of things here. We covered pharmacology. We covered some toxicology in terms of the side effects, and we covered some physiology as well, because pharmacologists, when designing drugs, pharmacologists need to understand the physiology of the body. They need to understand how the body works. And so the design of this drug required a great understanding of neuroscience. This is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. If you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, once again, please leave a comment underneath if something was said here that resonates with you. If you want to donate something to the channel, that information is below in the description box by way of Cash App or PayPal. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. In addition to being a YouTube content creator, I'm also a writer. And please share this content. This is valuable information to get out. And I'm always looking to grow the channel. And growth occurs in part through the content being shared. So, and to my neuroscience colleagues and peers out there, forgive me if I stumble through some of this. I tried to keep this short and sweet and to the point and nice and concise, but it's been a while since I've had my neuroscience and my neuropharmacology coursework. In any case, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for watching. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude, and always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.